is going on, guys? Nate here. Hopefully you guys are having a better day than I am. I've just had a rough day. It's the start of a rough week. Like I said in the last video, senior year is just, it's rough. It's rough. You know, people always, were telling me senior years, it's just the easiest year, it's, just flies by, everything goes great, and I'm not seeing it yet. It's pretty rough. But today, I have some news for you on the Jeep. I have some good news, some bad news, and some more bad news. So I'll start off with the good news so I can kind of get you guys on a good note, start off on a good note. And the good news is that we have the heater reinstalled in the Jeep. We have the blower motor upgrade done, which is a 72, I believe. I'll double check on that. It's a 72 or a 73 Chevy Blazer blower motor. Got that installed. It went pretty easy overall. Getting the heater box in and out was a major pain, but the actual transition from the stock Jeep blower motor to the Blazer blower motor was pretty straightforward. Pretty much all you have to do is enlarge the hole in the firewall, and it's plug and play. But I will do a more in-depth video of that, and kind of to let you guys know what's all involved in it if you guys are maybe thinking about it. And so far, I am amazed by it. Like, I was kind of skeptical in the beginning, about how much more air was actually going to push, but it is incredible. And everybody always said on the forums and everywhere, that it's a night and day difference. It's the best thing you can do. And like I said, I was skeptical, but I guarantee you guys, this is the best thing that you can do for your Jeep if you drive in the cold weather, or, if you daily drive it, or if you need defrosters, for example. It is the best thing that you can do for your Jeep. So that's the good news, and like I said, I'll do a more in-depth video on that, of kind of, an explanation of what you need to do, how to do it, and, what kind of difference you're going to see. But that's pretty much the only good news that I got for you guys. The bad news, I'll start off with the lesser of the bad news. And that is that both of them include having to get more parts for the Jeep, shocker. But the lesser of the bad news is that the water pump is starting to squeal. I'm assuming I'm going to have to get a new water pump here in the near future. I've been watching the temperature gauge, which I'm assuming is accurate. I'm not sure. But the temperature has been staying low. The Jeep always runs extremely cool, or at least the temperature says so. Usually the Jeep, it only has the needle from, hot to cold. And usually it doesn't get over a quarter of the way, to hot, so it's about a quarter, which is amazing. I was kind of wondering how well Jeeps would stay cool, but I mean, so far it's been amazing. But just before I did the heater upgrade to it, I was driving it, and I thought I heard something that sounded like a belt squeak, and it kind of comes and goes. It's very subtle, you really can't hear it that much, but I definitely know this is the water pump, and I'm pretty much bracing myself for having to get a new one. I just really don't want to do any more parts to the Jeep, and I know I signed up for this, but what's more irritating to me is that everything doesn't go out at once, and I guess that's a good thing and a bad thing. A good thing because you don't have to buy everything at one time, but a bad thing because as soon as you order a part, and mind you that wherever we seem to buy parts from is on the complete other side of the country, so it takes like a week to ship parts out to us, and naturally, every single time that I buy parts for the Jeep, as soon as the new ones come in, or as soon as I get done ordering something, of course, something else goes out, and I need to buy more parts, which, of course, takes forever. So, that is the first bad news. The water pump is starting to go out. The really bad news, and I'll kind of give you a backstory on what happened. I won't make it too lengthy, but you definitely have to know the backstory. So, it was Friday night, and I was going out with my friends, and I decided I was going to take the Jeep. So I go to head out to their house, and as I'm driving the Jeep, I noticed the brake pedal felt a little weird. And, I was driving the Escort before I actually took the Jeep out, so I was thinking, well, I'm probably just confused going from this easy brake pedal to, the Jeep's brake pedal, it's, old versus new. I'm probably just thinking about it too much. So I get to my friend's house, I pick them up, they get in the car, and we're heading out. And we're going to dinner, by the way. I'm not sure if I mentioned that. So we're on our way there, and the brake pedal just starts feeling more and more funky. Like when I come to a red light, it takes longer to slow down, and my foot's going farther and farther down to the floor on the brake pedal. And I'm kind of looking at it, and I'm like, something's not right here. And, you know, I know that I mentioned before that there was a drip on the bottom of the master cylinder, and I was thinking, you know, I'm sure that I'm probably spraying fluid everywhere under the hood right now because the master cylinder probably popped finally. So I'm driving along, and I'm keeping tons of distance between the car in front of me, you know, to make sure that nothing happens. And I still had decent brakes at this point, and the Jeep actually had amazing brakes when I first got it. I was really shocked. You know, for a 79, you know, I mean, they had really good brakes on it. So I was driving along, and we get to the restaurant, and I go ahead, and the first thing I do is I pop the hood, I pop the master cylinder open, and I had brake fluid in there. It was about half full to 3/4 full, so it was a little low, but I still had brake fluid in it, so, you know, I wasn't completely out. And, you know, I went ahead, we went in and got dinner, and I'm already looking online to see how much master cylinder is going to cost, and it's not that bad, you know, it's $20-30, which is no issue. But again, the biggest issue for me is shipping, because I'll get into that later. But, so we come out from dinner, and I'm about probably 15-20 minutes out from my house, and I get back in it, and as I was on the way to dinner, I pumped the brake pedal a few times, and it got better, but it would just decline afterwards. So I was telling my friends, you know, I think I can make it home, you know, I'm not going to have an issue, you know, worst comes to worst, you know, I'll just, you know, limp it back home. And on the way home, it got significantly worse. Probably about 10 minutes from home, my foot was to the floor on the brake pedal. It wasn't slowing down that well at all, but mind you, I did still have brakes. You know, I was able to stop. I was giving myself probably 4 or 5 car lengths in front of me, which was tons of room, and I was able to stop until I came to an intersection. I was going probably 30 miles an hour because I still had brakes at this point, and I was following a U-Haul truck. And again, I had probably 5-6 car lengths in front of me, so plenty of room. And I was probably about a couple blocks away from a stoplight at an intersection, and the U-Haul truck was in front of me, and he decided to stop for the light that just happened to turn yellow. So as soon as he slams on his brakes, because he was pretty close to the light, I went ahead, slammed on my brakes, and I had absolutely nothing. And, you know, I tend to exaggerate a little bit of things, but when I say that I had no brakes, I mean I had no brakes. I pushed my foot all the way to the floor, and there was nothing. I tried pumping them, I tried pushing on them harder, I tried everything that I could possibly do, and it just wasn't going to happen. It was not going to stop. So I went ahead and I told everybody in the car to hold on. I put the Jeep in first gear, let off the clutch. That slowed it down a hell of a lot. But unfortunately, I was still rolling, and I was getting closer and closer to the back of this U-Haul truck, which was now at a complete stop. And I said, you know what, I didn't want to have to do it because I was afraid I was going to break something, but I had to do it. I slammed on the e-brake, and naturally, the e-brake doesn't work. The e-brake was not adjusted, which I knew about prior to. You know, the e-brake, you know, if you were parked on a hill and you had the e-brake on, it would roll back a little bit. But I figured, you know, I'd probably have something to be able to stop. It was not going to happen. I slammed on the e-brake. It maybe slowed it down a little bit, but it just was not going to stop. So I was trying to figure out what to do. I was in the left-hand lane, and fortunately, there was nobody in the right-hand lane, so I was able to veer over and around, and thank God I was able to get around the U-Haul truck, and pretty much by the time I came to a stop, I was pretty much parallel to the cab of the U-Haul. So obviously I rolled for quite a ways. And, you know, it wasn't a small U-Haul, but it wasn't a big one. You know, it was a decent mid-sized U-Haul truck. And, you know, thankfully, if I would have gotten in an accident, there probably wouldn't have been any damage, just given how slow I was going. But still, as you guys know, it's always best to not get in an accident whenever you can. So that is my Jeep story, and the worst of the bad news is that I have completely lost the brakes on the Jeep. And I went ahead after that, I came home, and by that time I was maybe 5 minutes. I was probably less than 5 minutes. I was about 2 minutes away from home, and I basically just put my hazards on and rolled home. I had to run a couple stop signs because I wasn't able to stop, but you know, I had my lights on and I was honking, you know, let people know I had to go. And I didn't get any fingers or anything at me, so everybody must have understood that I had no brakes. It was either that or everybody in the car is screaming, "Stop!" So luckily, again, I was able to get home safe. Nobody got hurt. The car is okay. But we went ahead when we got home, jacked the car up, and there's no leaks under the Jeep. There's no leaks anywhere. The master cylinder has to be shot, so we got a new one on order, and that brings me back to my story about why I hate ordering stuff, because this was on Friday. We ordered the master cylinder Friday, and actually no, we ordered the master cylinder on Saturday because it was late when I got home. So we ordered the master cylinder on Saturday, and it wasn't going to be here until Tuesday, which is tomorrow. And I'm not sure if that's going to still happen or not, because today is Columbus Day, and I don't know if that's going to slow things down. But we ordered it through Napa, so you know, we know it's at least a quality part. And also, the steering pump, since we were talking about Napa parts, the steering pump is the wrong one. Like I said, the Jeep is a 79, so we ordered a 79 power steering pump, but it apparently turns out that the steering pump is actually from a 74, an earlier model CJ, because it actually is threaded and has a nut that holds the pulley on, whereas the 79 is just a smooth shaft that the pulley goes on, and then there's a bolt that goes in there. So we called them up, got a new one on order. We're going to return this one, so we should be able to get everything done here. Hopefully this is just a master cylinder and there's not another major problem that we're missing. So that's going to pretty much do it for today. Hopefully you guys did enjoy my story. I have to admit, it was a huge life experience, scary life experience, and I'm just glad it didn't happen at a worse time, when I was trying to make a turn or something, because if you can't slow down when you're turning in a Jeep, you're going to flip. So could have ended way worse. Thankfully it didn't. So hopefully you guys have a great day. Be safe out there, and make sure to go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and thanks everybody for your support. Thanks guys.